It's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Because again, if you look, I mean, I've been watching a few of Simon Sinek's videos, for example, on some of the stuff he does, and they have a stand-up town meeting, and they've got all these people, all his staff, 30 or people, and only 2 people talk.
Mm.
So effectively, everybody else, yes, it's great to see their face, but that's all consuming bandwidth. It's all, really, do you need to see that? Probably not.
We had the opposite problem here, and I'm too busy to really offer much more help than what we're already doing. But in my small town here in South Carolina, they had they needed to have an emergency county council meeting, and they had never done it online before, but they had to do it online. So they just did a conference call. They had something like 300 people on the call, no ability to mute the callers coming in. It was utter chaos.
But I think, again, I will point back to, this is like any technology, right? If you don't know how to use it, then you're going to get pandemonium. It's like the first time there was a spreadsheet, the first time it was whatever. I think that, unfortunately, people who use email think that they're IT experts, so they jump in and start using these tools and then suddenly realize that, again, there's a lot more to it. And again, it's the same as anything. You want to get the most out of it, you need to invest the time, learning the basics, which unfortunately, again, a lot of people don't do. And that's obviously the business you're in. But again, that's what I see is like, I can use email. I'm an expert at this. It's like, no, you're not, you can be, but you're not.
Yeah, fair enough. But I think
it's not FaceTime, if you know what I mean.
Right.
I think also too, the thing is, again, the team side of it is designed for businesses primarily. Zoom is designed mainly for, at home, consumer grade stuff. That's probably one of the biggest differences initially. Nothing wrong with it, but that's what they were designed for.
Yeah. Well,
so again, it's like, can you use a spreadsheet as a word processor? Absolutely. Should you? Of course not.
True. So we've got 5 people on the call, plus Jackie is joining us as a moderator. There she is.
Hello.
Hey, Jackie.
Hi, Robert.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, Robert, Jackie, Robert. Jackie is
virtually hello.
Jackie is our VP of content at Bigger Brain. She manages all the course production these days.
Cool.
And we have, like I say, six attendees on the call. We still have about 5 minutes, everybody. So I know you're listening to us chit chat. We'll try to keep the profanities down, but we'll be getting started officially in about 5 minutes or so. We actually had about 64 people registered for this one, I think, Robert, which is
okay.
Really...
So the attendees can hear this.
They can hear us, yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
There is a way to do it with a waiting room where they don't hear until we turn them live, but I've had trouble with that, so I kind of gave up on it.
No, I'm just curious.
So the nice thing about the webinar versus the Zoom meeting is with the webinar, all the attendees are automatically muted, and they can't, in fact, unmute themselves. So that controls some of the chaos in a larger group. We can, as panelists, we can unmute them. So if they raise their hand, we can unmute them.
Yeah, you can do that in just about any other platform as well.
Yeah. Same thing. I meant to ask you if you're okay with my introduction of you, but you'll just kind of have to be at this point.
Yeah, I'm fine. Whatever you say, it doesn't worry me. I'm many things on the internet, so choose whichever one suits this requirement.
I think I pulled most of it from your website.
That's fine.
I meant to ask you, are you still doing the Teachable site? Somebody was asking me what I thought of Teachable the other day.
Yeah. That's the main thing I use.
Are you still happy with it?
Yep, very happy with it. There are some billing challenges around receipts. So a lot of people want receipts. So getting that to be sent out on a monthly basis can be a bit of a challenge, but they've got it in their pipeline. But as a technology platform, it smokes everything else, in my opinion.
The main thing it's missing, because we had, I'm trying to think who it was. We get a lot of people who are starting up their own training companies or online training companies at the moment. Well, it's been an ongoing thing, and a lot of them find us and they want to resell our training content, and we're fairly selective about who we allow to do that anyway. But there was a lady last week, and she was a friend of one of our teachers, and so we wanted to be able to support her if we could. But She's using Teachable. She's just getting started, but Teachable doesn't support SCORM or AICC or XAPI, any of the kind of common e-learning formats. So we don't have a good way of getting our content over into her Teachable platform.
Okay, yeah, it's designed. It's designed obviously to build your own upload.
Right. Yeah.
It's like what's the other one? Udemy sort of thing, but it's a much better platform. But you record a video, you upload it, you put your notes in. As a platform, I think it's fantastic. So it's again, designed as a standalone platform sort of thing.
Agreed. So everybody, appreciate you being on here. It's about 4:58. We're going to wait about 3 minutes, and then we'll be getting started officially. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Everybody's muted by default.
Oh, to have the power of muting.
Only works in the webinar, not in real life.
You'd be surprised what a raised eyebrow and an angry glare can achieve.
From you, I can see that. Yeah.
Come on, I'm a nice chap. Don't spread these rumors. I work so hard.
Yeah, you are underneath. I will give you that.
Well, we're also in front too.
True. All right. True.
If you don't behave yourself, I won't tell you the lottery results for tomorrow.
All right. Well, is there still a lottery? I've totally lost track.
There's always a lottery.
I need to check in with my computer troubleshooter buddies down there. I haven't, the Computer Troubleshooters Australia sold last year. Nick Roach used to be the national director, and he sold it actually to the technician that was also running Nick's former MSP down there.
I think they're still around, but they're not nearly as prevalent as they used to be. Their market, to an extent, is largely being gobbled up. So
yeah, and then that's kind of true a little bit everywhere too. The new owners here in the U.S. have not haven't really had any success in expanding the concept, and disagreed with many of my strategies, and that's fine. The results speak for themselves.
Yep, that's my cliche as well.
All right, it is 5 o'clock. We'll give everybody just another 30 seconds because I know we have some late folks that like to come in. Patrick, appreciate you being here. I appreciate everybody being here, but I recognize Patrick's name. And we are recording also, so the recording will be up on YouTube probably tomorrow. Here comes a few more people. All right, let's go ahead and get started if we're ready. Hey, everybody, I appreciate you being here. My name is Chip Reeves. I'm the president of Bigger Brains. We started doing these live training sessions 3 weeks ago. This is our third one. Basically, when the whole coronavirus COVID-19 situation happened, we were looking at what we could do to help. We're primarily a training company. We primarily do online training. And we reached out to our teachers, and one of the ideas we came up with was we could offer some free training, especially geared towards people who find themselves working from home for the first time, but also kind of some general productivity training. And we reached out to a lot of our top Bigger Brains teachers to see what they felt would be appropriate to teach. You know, what subject would they think would be helpful for people in that situation? And that's generated the series that we're in now. So some housekeeping for today. All of you on the call I forgot Patrick was in New Zealand. All of you on the call are automatically muted. If you do have questions, please use the chat window. There is also a Q&A window. You can ask questions over there. I just forget to check it, but that's when we have Jackie Flynn with us to help keep an eye on the chat and on the Q&A. We will be recording today's session. It will be on our YouTube channel, hopefully tomorrow. You can also see the recording of the last two sessions. We had Kelly Vandiver did a session on presenting PowerPoint online, and Amy Babinchak last week did a session on working with Microsoft Teams. Both of those recordings are already on the YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/biggerbrains743. some upcoming sessions. So next week we have Dr. Rebecca Heiss. This is our first non-software session, so we're kind of excited about that. She's one of our most popular teachers, and she's going to be talking about dealing with dis-ease, basically stress reduction techniques for all of us who are living in a very different sort of world right now. Week after that, I'll be talking about managing in Microsoft Teams. Week after that, Emily Lugo is going to be talking about Gmail tips and tricks. And the session after that is going to be Idaho Idakpai talking about SharePoint. So a lot of good sessions. You can find all the information on these on our blog. If you go to www.getbiggerbrains.com/blog, you'll see the registration links for each of these, and you do need to register to be let in. They're free, but our Zoom webinar only allows up to 100 people. So the first 100 that register get the links to come in and participate. Again, we're Bigger Brains. We're best known for our online training. We have a library of about 140 courses that are available through our website and also through a lot of top training resellers around the world. So today is very exciting. Today, Robert Crane is our guest expert. And I've known Robert for quite a few years now. And what I think is especially interesting about the topic today is when I put out the message that we wanted to help people who are working from home, help them to be more productive, help them to stay on target business-wise in a different sort of environment, and asked what sort of topics they felt, our teachers felt, would be helpful in those situations. I know Robert knows a lot of things. Robert knows SharePoint, he knows Teams, he knows Office 365, he knows pretty much all things Microsoft, and he really wanted to talk about OneNote. I know it's something he's very passionate about, and I'm looking forward to hearing everything he has to say about it. Robert has a degree in electrical engineering as well as an MBA. He's a small business specialist, Microsoft certified SharePoint professional, Office 365 administrator, Azure technical specialist, Microsoft MVP, which is by far the most impressive of the bunch, and an MCT. He's got over 20 years of IT experience, and he's a principal in the Computer Information Agency. And we are thrilled to death to have you with us today, Robert. Thank you so much for being here. Having said that, I will turn things over to you.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Chip. Let me see if I can get my screen shared here. Make sure that you can see my lovely Windows desktop. So just get Chip to confirm you can see my desktop.
I see it.
Excellent. All right. So the important thing Chip didn't mention, you'll probably recognize by the accent, I'm from a land far, far away and far, far into the future. I reside in Sydney, Australia, and have so all my life, but do work all around the world. So what I'm here to talk about, as Chip mentioned, is a technology from Microsoft called OneNote. Now, what you might be surprised to hear is that OneNote has been with us probably now 15, almost 20 years. So it was part of the original Office suite. It has been available on just about every single desktop implementation of Office, and it is probably the product that most people aren't fully aware of. So again, you will probably find that you already have OneNote, so you probably don't need to go out and buy it per se. It's available on mobile. It's also available on the web, which I'll show you. Now, what problem does OneNote solve for us? Well, one of the biggest revolutions in technology, I think, that really has bypassed a lot of people is this concept of the paperless office. So when I do training, when I speak to customers, when I go in and look at what's actually on their desk, you will typically find that they are using their computer for calculations in Excel, for typing up documents, but most people still carry around a paper notebook and furiously write on that. Now, I myself was a note taker, always have been. I have piles and piles of paper notes from back in the day until I decided to convert across to OneNote. So what is OneNote? OneNote, in a nutshell, you can think of as a digital notebook. So what you can think of that as a replacement for a paper notebook that you may be taking notes in right now. So if we have a quick look here, you'll see that this is the desktop version of OneNote. I'll give you a quick overview of this and we can look at some of the other versions that are available. But the concept is basically the same here. Across the top, you'll notice that we have a number of tabs. So again, think of this like your Filofax, where we have different tabs here under different topics. Now, as we move between topics, you'll see that on the right-hand side that we have a list of pages. So again, think of it as topic at the top and then pages down the side. And again, these pages can contain a variety of material. So the good thing about OneNote is that OneNote basically will allow you to swallow any sort of content that you have. So it can swallow text, it can swallow pictures, it can swallow links, it can swallow sound bites, files. That's what I really like about OneNote, is the fact that you can really use it as your notebook to keep all of this ad hoc information. So what we find in technology is that, yes, things like Excel, things like Word do a really good job in a somewhat defined area. Now, can you use Excel for doing word processing, doing PowerPoint as a database? Absolutely, you can certainly do that. It's probably not the best tool for it. But what we find with OneNote, again, it's this ad hoc ability to take all sorts of information. Now, why is that really handy? Well, the first benefit of putting information digitally is that it is saved somewhere. So one of the benefits of OneNote is that once we type the information into our OneNote, it is saved for us to access at other times. Now, what we can also do with OneNote is we can store our OneNote files in a cloud location, and that cloud location can then be shared with other users and other devices. So what's the benefit of that? Well, the benefit of that is that our notes, if we take them on our desktop and we have shared our OneNote into the cloud, then that information is updated, saved into the OneNote, which is in the cloud, which can then be automatically updated and saved to somebody else. So that gives us the ability effectively to synchronize, automatically synchronize information between users and between devices. Now, why is that really good? Well, if you, for example, create a shopping list and you write it all down and you lose that shopping list, well, then you've got to write out that shopping list again. Or if you leave that shopping list at home, then again, you've got to try and rely on your memory. But if I put my shopping list into OneNote and OneNote's saved in the cloud, then that shopping note is then copied from my local desktop to the cloud and then maybe onto my mobile phone, so that when I'm traveling and I get out of my car and think, oh, I forgot my shopping list, I can pull out my OneNote and I can go through and I will see all the items listed in there. So what it means is for me, I have access to many, many OneNotes, and I have them synchronized on my desktop, on my mobile, and on various PCs around the environment. So again, I'm getting the backup, I'm getting multiple copies of it, but I'm also getting access to that information anywhere I am. So as you'll see here, we do have a copy on the desktop. So this is our traditional Office application here, but what you'll also see now is Microsoft is moving to a newer environment here where you can see that the layout's a little bit different and it's more, I suppose, modern in its approach. But again, it's the same OneNote that we were talking about before. Okay, so this is exactly the same as what we were looking at here on the desktop. This is the more modern, this is the more what they call the modern interface for OneNote. Now, the other advantage we get here is that we also get the ability to see this in the cloud. So again, if I go into my environment here, my Office 365, so this is a commercial cloud environment. It will work in consumer grade cloud environments in here. And we, for example, go through my list of many, many documents here till we find them alphabetically. You'll see that this same OneNote is now available on the web. When I click on it, it will now open in a web browser. So importantly is that this version of OneNote is available on my PC, on my mobile device, on a Mac, on the web as well. Now, being available on the web means that I can get to this information anywhere that I have access to the internet. Now, the good thing is if I make any changes to any of these, this will automatically update and make sure that information is completely consistent across the environment. All right. Now, let's have a look again at the desktop version of OneNote, because that, again, at this stage has more features. So the way Microsoft is moving is that it's started out creating Office applications for dedicated desktops. So there used to be an Office for Mac, there used to be an Office for Windows, and so on. Now, what Microsoft is moving is to a common code base. So the idea is moving forward, what we will see is we will see the same version, look and feel of OneNote, Word, Excel, PowerPoint on our Mac, on our PC, and on our Windows. So the new look and feel is definitely going to be more like this version here. However, at this stage, the traditional, what they call the Office 2016 version of OneNote is still available to us. The reason is that there certainly is some more power functionality in there that it gives us at this stage. But over time, those functions, those features of what we've seen in the traditional version will end up across all different versions. So again, as I mentioned, you'll see that you have the tabs, the sections across the top, you have the pages down the right. Now, again, if I want to add another page, all I need to do is basically put a plus sign, hit the demo. You'll see I now get a new page, and I can then start adding pages by going over here and simply typing in. Now, what I can do is simply type my text in there, and you'll see I can keep adding that down the page. So I can use it basically like a word processor as well. But what I can also do is that if you have a device that supports pen or supports touch, then you'll see you can actually write or basically scribe into your OneNote there. So again, if you go down here and have a look, let me go back to here. If you have a look here, you'll see that what we've got is we've also got the ability, which I did for you there, a little bit of handwriting signature. But what I find for myself is that because I love writing things and there's always that feel of actually holding a pen and writing stuff down, what I did is I went out and purchased a iPencil, the Apple Pencil, and I use OneNote every day as replacement for my handheld notes, and I certainly scribe in there every day. So I have a journal that I write in. If I'm taking notes in a meeting or at a conference, I get out my iPad, I get out my Apple Pencil, and I start scribing away. Now, the benefit of that is, as I said, is as soon as I scribe this stuff down, it's backed up, it's saved. But OneNote also gives me a couple of additional features here, or powers, when it comes to actually scribing my information. So what you'll see here in the drawer option, not only can I, again, select from different pens, highlighters, we can also interact with touch if you want to use your finger as well. But you'll see down here to the right, we can also convert our ink to text. So if you are scribing and it can recognize your handwriting, then you can select an area and you can convert that ink into text. So that means that it will then appear as normal text, and we can then basically go out and use that as normal text, copy and paste, all right? Now, the other interesting thing here is this ink to math. So what we've got here basically is the ability to go in here, and we could go in and, again, you know, typically we could do, I'll see how well I can do it with a mouse, probably not particularly well, but you can use this to do things like equations, all right? So where we see OneNote being especially big these days is in the education field. So a lot of kids these days are using OneNote to share in the classroom. They are sharing information. And again, imagine the good old days when we were kids. I pity my poor mother who had to go out and help me do projects and, you know, cut out things from magazines and correct my writing and, again, make sure everything was nice and presentable. In today's world, what we can do, a teacher can set up a OneNote. They can share that with a group, a class, and then everybody can contribute to that. Now, the benefit of that is that when we are finished with that contribution, then everybody gets a copy of that notebook. So how does that translate into the corporate world? Well, I'm sure everybody is well aware of when you go to a meeting, you take your paper notebook in, everybody takes their own notes, and then they leave, and those notes stay with that individual. It's really, really handy to have a single meeting notebook, and everybody, for example, goes in and starts entering the notes that they hear or they need to do inside that OneNote. And then when they leave, everybody's got the same copy. Everybody's working on the same page. All that information, again, has been captured into a single location. So don't overlook the fact that we can not only type text into OneNote, we can also use it to draw. And again, something like an Apple Pencil or a Surface pen work really well. And we can convert a lot of that input also into text. We can also basically convert that into mathematical equations as well, which is probably more relevant for kids these days, but it just shows you the power of the options that are available to you in OneNote. So if we quickly have a look at some of the things here, you'll see that you can basically insert a table. So if you want to put a table in like a word processor, we'll come back to the file printout. I'll show you that. We can insert a file attachment. So if you want to basically have a file in OneNote, what we can do is we can just simply drag and drop a file into our OneNote. So let's go off and see if we can find a non-encrypting file here, and basically then drop that into our OneNote. Okay, where's the top of this? Whoops, disappeared. It's a bit hard when you get white on white. There we go. So basically, I should be able to take this file, this PDF file here, and I'll just drag this onto my OneNote. Now, when I drag it onto my OneNote, I do have an option here. I can attach the file. So that's basically embedding the complete file inside my OneNote. So again, think of that as a copy of the file, or I can print it out. So let me attach the file. So what that's doing now is that's uploading a copy of the file and basically putting it inside that OneNote. So I'm using that as a file repository. What's the benefit of that? Well, once again, you've got a full copy of the file, which is then synchronized or copied up to whatever location you have saved this OneNote. And again, we'll make that available in multiple locations. So I've had certainly the case where I've put files in here and then I've been out on the road and I've needed to have a look at them and couldn't find them in my emails. So if I use OneNote, I can arrange it in the way that makes sense to me, and then I can double click and that will open the file directly for me. So again, don't overlook the fact that you can insert files. We can also put spreadsheets. We can do a screen clipping. So there are many, many different screen clipping programs out there. Microsoft OneNote has that ability there. So you can use the OneNote clipping tool. The advantage with the OneNote is that if you use OneNote a lot to capture screen captures, if you use their clipping tool, then whatever you capture will end up directly in OneNote. We can insert pictures, we can put videos, we can put links, but here's another really interesting one. We can also record not only audio and video and put that into OneNote. Now, why is that an advantage? Well, two things. If I'm out on the road again and I need to make a quick note or reminder or something and I don't have time to write it down or my thumbs are a bit fat, which they normally are, I can basically put a recording directly into OneNote. Now, that will then save as a file, that will then synchronize to other locations. But what you may not appreciate is that it will also convert that into searchable information. Now, the big benefit here of OneNote is anything digital, not only is it backed up, but it is also searchable. So for example, if I go up to the search banner here, you'll see that I've already done a search for a term. But if I, for example, do a search for a term called ADFS, you will see that it will search across all my workbooks for a match. And you'll see that I have a OneNote open, which again is a technical notebook that I have that allows me to capture all my information. And again, I use this as a way for me not to have to remember everything. So when I find a relevant link based on my work, based on Office 365, what I do is I save that into what I call my codex. So my codex, you'll see across the top, is broken out by the individual items like Exchange, Skype for Business, SharePoint. And then I have different pages down here which are relevant to the topics. Now I can navigate through those and look for whatever information I want, but the real power of this is its ability to search. So again, remember that everything that you put into OneNote becomes searchable. The major productivity benefit from making things digital when it comes to notes is the ability to search. Now I'm sure everybody has had a situation, and being a diligent note taker, this has been me too. I have written down something that I need to remember. I must remember. Maybe it's a phone call. And then basically the ability to think, oh, hang on, where was it? I was talking to Fred. Oh, what was his phone number? I can then do a search and that information will pop out. So for me, the number one takeaway for OneNote is that everything that I put into this information will be searchable and obviously will be backed up, and then will be available in multiple locations. Now, as you can see, I can have multiple notebooks here. They can contain different information. They can have different sharing options. So, for example, I've got another codex here, which is on Azure. So again, different layout, different topic, and I can choose to share this information with others at my control. So again, we can insert, like I said, also audio and video in there, and if it can transcribe, it will make that searchable. I can insert the date and the time. So one of the big advantages that I've seen this used for, so let me go to one that I can play around with here. So basically what I can do here is, for example, I can insert a date and time stamp. Now, where is that really handy? Well, that's really handy. Imagine you've got someone at reception who is taking messages, or now remotely. So if someone's working remotely and someone calls them up and says, can I speak to Joe? And they're not available, you can go in and basically timestamp this entry. And then if we hit the tab, you'll see that it starts building out a table for us, and we can now start entering this information. So I've seen this used as a tracking, as a reception logging tool. And another big advantage you'll see is once I create that element, I can basically move that element around to anywhere I want on the page. So it gives me that flexibility to rearrange this to suit my needs. So again, we can insert our time and our date stamp. We've also got the ability to do templates. So maybe you've got a standard meeting you have every Monday morning with a certain agenda. We can use that as a template. We can bring that into our OneNote so that when we create new pages, it will basically follow that format for us. If you want, you'll see that we can put in equations, and we can get quite complex here, probably not so much in business these days, but again, very handy if you are a student. And we've also got the ability to put in symbols here as well.
Robert,
now, what I really like about OneNote when we work in a group of individuals is the fact that we can go in here and we can look at recent edits and what's done by authors. So let me go back to a OneNote that is worked on quite regularly. If I go into history here, you'll see that I can go in here and look at, okay, what's happened in the last 30 days here? And I get a window over here on the right-hand side, and you'll see these are all the modifications I've made to that OneNote in the last 30 days or so. So if again, I click on this, it'll take me to that location. It will show me and highlight the areas that have changed. So again, if I'm working with a group of people and I want to see what they've actually edited, what they've changed in my OneNote, I can again go into the history option here. So again, one of the big advantages is that effectively that it is tracking all those changes. It's making sure those changes are the same across my environments, and also gives me that ability to go in and have a look at what that is in a group situation. Now, one of the other things that I really like about OneNote, so the way it has changed the way that I operate, is one of the things that I have created is what I call a daybook. So the idea here is that what happens is that I would use a diary, a paper diary on my desk, and I record what happened every day. I would keep a copy of that. Now, that was great to refer to. It was great for a bit of compliance, but over time, you do accumulate quite a lot of notebooks, and it can be difficult to find information. So what I did was I converted that diary concept into what I call my daybook in OneNote here. So see across the top, I've got things like January, February, March, April, so all my months, and then down the side, I would have my pages. So I would go in here and create the third, and what I would do then is, I would type in what happened today. I would drag notes in. I would copy and paste from websites. Now, one of the other advantages out here is if I go to a website of choice, so let's just pick a standard news here. So again, if I copy something, hopefully, if I copy something here, let me try, just copy that. If I then copy this and go in and stick it into my OneNote, you'll see that it keeps the formatting, it keeps the pictures, but importantly, notice down the bottom here, it also basically goes in and lets me know where I got that from. So if I'm copying information from the web, what I really like about it is I can copy a block of text from my environment, stick it into my OneNote, Control-C, Control-V, and then what happens is it will automatically tag it and let me know where that information has come from, so that if I ever need to go back, I can. So it's really fantastic for all that sort of research for me anyway, that I do on the web regularly. Now, another concept where I use OneNote is if I'm, for example, on holidays or traveling. So many of you who travel regularly will appreciate that you need to keep all your information together. You need to have the bookings, you need to have the flights and all the details, and that can be spread over many emails, many different documents. So what I like to do is I like to take all that information. I like to create a OneNote that has all my travel information broken out by hotel, location, dates, times, all that information. The advantage with that is that A, I've got a backup of it. B, it's organized in a way that makes sense in a single place for me. And D, I also get the ability that if I'm on the run and all I've got is basically one hand while I'm dragging my bag across an airport, I can quickly whack out my phone and I can go through my OneNote there and see all that information. I can also take a picture on my phone, embed it into OneNote. Now, one of the other advantages you'll find of OneNote on the mobile device is the ability to basically scan or take a picture directly into OneNote. So what I can do is I can take a picture of a receipt, and that receipt can be sent directly into my OneNote, saved there for perpetuity. And of course, if there is any text on that picture, I can then search for that information and basically recover it. So again, another great use of this in a business context is the ability to keep my receipts. Now, one of the other things you'll find is the integration with the environment you're in. So once I install OneNote, if I go into my printers and scanners here, you'll see that I have the option down here to send to OneNote. So what happens is when I install OneNote on my desktop environment, it creates a ghost printer. Now what happens is when I print to that OneNote ghost printer, any of the printout directly goes into OneNote. So again, I can drag and drop the file in there as I showed you, but if I print it, then it also gives me the ability to format it slightly differently, but it will also convert that text and make it searchable. Now, where I've used that is that if I'm taking, if I receive a number of PDF notes, like a university class or something, I can print that into my OneNote, and then what I can do is I can search those articles, and I can use that for quotes. So not only will it give me the ability to copy and paste, to drag and drop, but I can also print things. So imagine printing an invoice. Now, what I use it for in a large case also is to use it to capture information from my Outlook. So again, one of the integration points you will find here is basically the ability to integrate with applications like Outlook. Now, we've all probably got too much email. We're probably all using our emails as a bit of a dumping ground to put information into. So again, what I like to do basically is get it out of my Outlook, which again doesn't really allow me to control the information well, doesn't allow me to put it in a way that makes sense. So you'll see here that I have a typical Outlook environment, but what I can also do here is that if I go into an email here, what I can generally do is I'll be able to send this to my OneNote. I've got too many buttons, so if I right mouse click on maybe, there we go. So you'll see here I have the ability to send it to OneNote. So when I integrate this with the tools that I have, you'll see here I can go in here and I can, for example, stick it into this information. So let's put it into that location. So again, it's effectively going to print it out for me. So there we go. So it is now printed the email out for me automatically. It's put the text, it's put the highlights, it's put the HTML. And I use this a hell of a lot, especially when I'm, again, looking to keep track of conversations that may happen over a period of time. So maybe it's a poor man's CRM in a way, but I find it very, very handy to be able to do that and to organize that. Now, if I want to move this information, again, I can just right mouse click on here and you'll see that I can copy a link. So that will allow me to get to it quickly. I can move and copy it. So what I can do is I can move it to another location in my arrangement. And what I can also do is I can also make this, for example, a subpage. So I can also do a number of indenting. Now, as you'll see, if we go across to the other version that we've got here, looks very similar, same sort of concepts. I've got my notebooks over here. And then once I go into my notebooks, if we go into the Codex one, for example, you'll see here, this looks very similar to what you saw before. So it gives us that look, that same sort of look and feel, slightly different arrangement. We get the same abilities across the top here to insert text, to insert pictures, to draw. Again, we can scribe. The good thing about this version is oops, hopefully. No, it doesn't want me to do that. So what it gives you is a rainbow pen. Really love the rainbow pen. Fantastic. More options here. But we've got the ability to ink to shape. We've got the ability to do maths. We've also got the ability to put in a ruler. So if you do want to draw things that way, lots of those options. And again, we've got things like the ability here to do an immersive reader. So let's go to my travel page and let's see if I can find something with a bit of text in here. Maybe we go back here. So then what we can do is, one of the abilities here with the Microsoft environment is to use this immersive reader. So the immersive reader basically is part of things like Edge. It's part of things like SharePoint. And so, El Potatoes, there you go, eh? So one of the big advantages here is the integration with the environment allows you to take advantage of the immersive reader. Now, where do I use the immersive reader? Well, sometimes I like to have things being read to me rather than me having to read through huge amounts of text. So again, really, really handy, lots of technologies here. Now, the important thing also that many, many people seem to want to have, again, I'm a bit of a newspaper kind of guy, but if you want, you'll see here you can put it into dark mode. So if you do want to operate in dark mode with OneNote on the desktop, on the mobile, on the Mac, and potentially also in your Windows environment, you can certainly do that. And you do have those that ability to change that to suit your environment. So lots and lots of custom configurations here. You'll see that I get notifications to tell me things that have changed, all right, and I can go and have a look. And if I want, I can quickly and easily share this information with others inside and outside my organization. And where is this handy? Well, for example, you'll see that this, this notebook here called Office 365 Codex is shared with over 200 people at this point in time. So every time I make an update to this, over 200 people automatically receive an update, the latest information of this on their device, whichever they have connected. Now, the quick mention here, as I said, if you do have a OneDrive environment, be it commercial or be it the consumer version, you can basically go in here, put your OneNotes in there, you can share them with other people. And again, one of the abilities here is to go up and to create OneNote directly on the fly, directly in the web. And if you want to, you can stay totally in the web browser. As you can see here, looks very much the same as that new modern version. Now, the last thing is, before I throw open to some questions, for those of you who have were on the previous calls and talked about teams, what I've also done here is basically I have a team here, and you'll see that this exact Office 365 Codex has been embedded directly into Teams. So again, you don't necessarily need to use it as a standalone application. You can embed it into a team environment. So what's the advantage of that? Well, think about all those emails that go back and forth and people making discussions, and the email just gets longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. It's so much better to put this into a common collaboration area that everybody can contribute, then everybody gets the update, it's backed up, it's searchable. And if it's in a corporate environment, then it's controlled by you, which means that if a person leaves, then they will no longer have access to that information. So in a nutshell, the biggest advantage of OneNote, in my opinion, is to really move to this paperless office. I will put my hand on my heart and tell you that I have not used a paper notebook for over 3 years now after deciding to fully adopt and embrace OneNote. It's taken me a little while to get the full hang and feel of it, but things like this day book that I use, like I said, every single day, I put my notes in there, and then basically I use my iPad and my pen like a notebook. So I still have pretty much that same feel as I've had before. It captures all my thoughts. It's always in there. I always have my OneNote open every day. When somebody calls me, I basically start typing into today, keep that information. And the big advantage, as I said, is by doing that, it is not only backed up, it's not only shareable, but it's also searchable. Now, search is going to save you hours and hours of time trying to put information together and to find that where it's located. So in a nutshell, I would suggest to you that all you need to do is push your start button and basically type OneNote. And I'd be pretty amazed if you didn't find that you already have a copy of OneNote on your machine if you're using the Microsoft Office suite. Basically select that. And then what you can do, again, is you can start going in and start playing around. You can go in and down here, you'll see I can go in and add a new notebook. You can potentially access any notebooks that you've been working on other devices. And my advice is just go in, start playing with it. It's not going to bite you. You can always create another notebook, a more formal one. But the way I like to start things out is I always started with a personal day book just for me to get familiar with it. And then once I'm comfortable with that, I start creating notebooks that I then share with other people. So again, the idea is consolidate the information, make it searchable, make it backed up, make it available on any device, anywhere. And again, don't just think of it in a corporate environment. Like I said, I have personal notes, shopping lists, travel arrangements, to-do lists, all of that sort of stuff lives in OneNote. So my mantra is you can take away my email, but please don't take away my OneNote. So with that, Chip, have we got any questions that need to be dealt with?
We've got quite a few, but I like your mantra. Jackie, go ahead. What's our first question?
Well, I think you touched on this a little bit, but what are the pros and cons of using OneNote as a wiki in Teams or SharePoint?
So one of the advantages of OneNote, which I really like, is I do not like to be constrained by any way, shape, or form or any sort of CRM software, because typically the one field that you want to create is not available to you. So where it's OneNote's really, really good, and again, the idea here is that, if I can find my mouse, where's my mouse? Here we go. So the idea here is you'll see that effectively my codexes are my wikis. Okay, so the reason I created that is, one, I found it much easier to put information in there, to type, to capture files, tables, to rearrange it, to move it, to do all that sort of stuff. So I found that much more, much easier to work with than a wiki. I also found the ability to work with it in the web, on the desktop, on the mobile device as more flexible than a wiki. I found the searchability also to be far more powerful generally. And I also found the shareability. So if I want to share this with a person outside the environment, it's a quick and easy step to do that. Now, of course, there are some trade-offs. Like Word, like Excel, like any Office document, it's a free-form document. So what it means is if you share this with someone and give them right permissions and they go in and delete it or screw it up or change your formatting, then yes, that's the way it's going to be. So if you want something formal in a format that you want, you just need to look at your permissions and how to lock down the pages, how to lock down the environment. So for example, this codex is available to me to make changes, but nobody else. Everybody else can consume it, but not make changes. So again, it's like sharing a Word document with somebody else. They can change the formatting, they can edit it. And again, it's more free form than it is structured. So I find that freeform works better for me because in a month's time, I go, oh, hang on, I've got a better way of doing it. Let me rearrange everything. Much, much easier to do in OneNote than it is in Wiki. So hopefully that answers your question.
You know, there's a lot of things that I like that Microsoft does, and there's some decisions they make that just have me scratching my head. And as you remember, Robert, when Teams first came out, OneNote was a standard part of every channel. You had your conversations, you had your files, and you had your OneNote. And then pretty quickly, they took away the OneNote and replaced it with the built-in wiki in Teams, which I'll be honest, I have tried to use, and I really struggle with it. It's you know, I would like to be able to use it. It's very minimalist in its features. It's a little clunky, and it doesn't work on mobile devices. So I kind of wish they had stuck with OneNote on that.
Well, I think, again, you've got to trade this off. Microsoft, again, is trying different things. The wiki, like you said, is simpler. You know, this concept of pages and tabs and all this sort of thing. And I think the idea with the wiki was to keep it totally within Teams. However, I think that in general, the flexibility is what you want. Oh, give me a tool. Why is Excel the most common tool on everybody's desktop? Because you can use it for everything. Should you use it for everything? Probably not, but you can. So I think the flexibility wins out in the long run, but that said, also think about learning a wiki versus learning OneNote. It is far simpler, I think, to get up to speed with a wiki using Wikipedia and those sort of concepts. But you're right, it's probably not the right ideal. But over time, Microsoft will, again, look at the feedback, look at the usage, and settle on something which works for the majority of people, which personally I think will be OneNote.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Jackie, what else do we have?
Can you export OneNote to a Word document for a colleague who doesn't use OneNote?
A colleague who doesn't use OneNote, please. Okay, so basically, if you go into the file area, you'll see that you have exports of a page. Yes, you can export it to Word, a PDF. You can export a whole section. So that's obviously one of the tabs at the top. And again, you can actually take a whole OneNote and export it to a package, a OneNote package. So for example, what I do is if you have a look here in my magical, mystical codex, I have basically, where are we? I have an option here called certifications. So these are all Microsoft IT certification exams. So let me go down and find, for example, this one, right? The MS 900. So in here, you'll find I've got links, I've got notes, I've got questions, I've got how to do. Now, what I do is I aggregate that. And then if I teach a class on that, I just go in here and then basically go export. And I would export that section, the certification section, to the individuals as a OneNote so they can input into their OneNote, or to a Word document or PDF so they can use it. So in short, the answer is yes, you can export it just about any other format that you can think of.
So how does it handle the export if the material on the OneNote page is wider than a typical Word document page would be? How does it work?
Well, again, what you've got to think of, it's like copy and paste, right? So if you took the stuff in OneNote and just copied and paste, it is basically going to be the same sort of format. It's going to format it to the page of the destination. So again, think about the way we're exporting here. So if you have a look at the export, if you're exporting to Word and these formats here are largely bound by the printers that you have on your machine. So if I've set it to A4, when I do export it, it's going to export it into A4 format like when I print it, okay? But if I have legal or if I have portrait, then it will format it in that space. So it's largely based on the printer settings. So you can get it the way you want, but again, think of it largely like a copy and a paste. What does that look like when you export it?
Okay. Jackie?
Sure. Patrick says one of the challenges he has is having different manuals for different programs, which he has in a folder taxonomy. They're normally in Word or PDF format. This means I need to open the document, use the menu or search function to find an answer. Is there a way of creating a document with headings converted into sections for easy navigation in OneNote? In other words, using OneNote as a way of managing technical manuals.
So I suppose there's a difference here between managing technical manuals and also implementing a technical manual. So my advice would be you're better off with the technical manual totally inside OneNote, like I've got here with my codex. But again, if we go to a free example here, so what we could do if you wanted to manage those, you could create a page and we could put, documents in here. And then what I could do here is I could put, link 1, link 2. And then what I could do is I could go in here and I could use that and basically then insert a link to basically a file or to a location. So there's the link there. I can then link that to C drive, documents, blah, 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 or F drive, da, 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 da. So there are ways of doing it. It's probably not the best way to manage it, I would suggest. But again, it's a free-form tool. You can build it any way you like. That's what I like about it. But I would strongly suggest that maybe it's better for the technical manuals to live totally in OneNote, because you get all the abilities, you get the searchability, you get the navigation built in, but it comes down to it's your imagination. And my advice to you is that this technology is fantastic, like a lot of technologies. What I see is when people see something like this and they really like it, they can see the benefit, they tend to go a bit berserk and do everything in that tool. I would suggest you just need to look at things. Okay, what's one simple thing I can do? Let me do the diary for myself, and then let me do this project for my team, and then grow it out from there and get the feel for it. Because again, people use emails in different ways. People use documents in different ways. People use Excel in different ways. OneNote is no different. It is a tool to do a lot of things, and it will take a little bit of time for you to get familiar and work out what works best for you and your team. So the good thing is that you can always solve a problem with something like OneNote. It's just a matter of sitting down, doing a bit of thought beforehand, trying a few things, and then coming out with a solution that works for everybody.
Okay. Another question is about templates. Are there suggestions for templates if you're moving from paper notes to OneNote? And I'm also curious, are there built-in templates or ones you can download or anything like that?
Yeah, there are lots and lots of, again, there are lots and lots of templates that are out there, okay, that you can actually use. So again, you can import these. And if I go into another one here, because I don't use templates, let me see if I can find, probably insert, isn't it? So insert pages and templates. So the idea here is you would then go and select the template. So you see that you get a number of standard ones as part of the product. So let's go in, or let's go decorative. I feel very decorative. Let's what are binoculars. There we go. All that does is add a thing in the top corner. But again, what you can also do here is you can also do things like, again, got to find it. So what we can do here is the ability to add things like rulers. Okay, so this gives us the ability to have ruled lines. So I basically use this again when I have it on my iPad. So I would set up the page so it looks like a ruled page, and I would use my pen and write in there. So yes, and you can create your own templates. So I think if we go into, once you get the page the way you want it, and if you go into export, you'll see that there should be an option here, I think, for a template. I think one of these is I think this one here is a template. So you can basically go in and create your own templates. And if you go to the Microsoft site, the Office site, or just do a search for OneNote templates, yes, there are lots and lots of them out there. And you can set it up so that when you add a new page, the template that you've selected will automatically appear as that. One other thing that I didn't mention, which I will do here for you, is that you can also for example, add, things like this. So if I make a task list, what I can do here is if I go into here, you'll see that I get these tags, right? So I can tag these and you'll see I get an automatic to do there, right? So I can tick the things that are done. When I go in here, you'll see that I get a list of tags. So I use the tags for critical, project, those sort of things. Now, the real advantage of this is we can now also search by tag. So now that I've gone into that, you'll see that I can show me the items which are currently unchecked. So again, another big thing I use is this tagging for to do, and then I can go in and say, okay, what do I need to actually get done in this environment? So it gives you that sort of flexibility as well. But the answer to the question is yes, there are lots of templates on the Microsoft site and built in there, and you will find those, I think, where did I find them? In insert and then under page templates there.
And Robert has also very generously given us a template for his, is it called Daylog or Daybook? I forget.
Daybook.
Daybook. So if you go to the Bigger Brains blog page, the same place that most of you registered for today's event, you'll see a little link under Robert's session to download the template for his Daybook.
So what that gives you basically is a blank diary with January, February, March, April, May, and all 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. My advice to you is download that or stick it into your OneDrive location and then start using that as your personal diary. This to me has allowed me to go totally paperless and have access to my notes anywhere, anytime. And I cannot tell you the amount of times it has saved my butt behind looking for something. Again, you've just got to get into the discipline, obviously, of putting the information into OneNote. But once you get in, if you are already a religious note taker, you shouldn't have any trouble with that.
Jackie, are there any other questions?
This is a question from me. I think we covered all the questions from our participants. Is there any integration between Microsoft To Do, and OneNote?
Yes, there is, and there's more coming along the way. So at the moment, Microsoft To Do is a fairly new application. It has come from Wunderlist, which Microsoft purchased. They're beginning to integrate that more and more. So you'll see To Do integrated into OneNote, into Planner, into your Outlook. So yes, the answer is yes. It's probably not fully baked as yet, but there is some basic integration. But we will see these products, again, integrate more and more together as Microsoft. One of Microsoft's big pushes going forward is to have a unified task environment, which has been missing for many, many, many years. So again, in the near future, we hope to see that. There is some basic integration with To Do, but we should see more as we go down the track.
Okay.
Yeah, and just on that, Jackie, as you know, I'm pretty much a Microsoft To Do evangelist. We've a lot of our business, a lot of Bigger Brains runs on Microsoft Planner, and I've been using Microsoft To Do to track my own to-do list, which sucks in everything that people assign to me in Microsoft Planner, plus whatever I assign to myself in Microsoft Outlook, puts it all in Microsoft To Do. When it starts bringing in OneNote tasks as well, that'll be a great day.
Yeah.
I did want to share one other tip, Robert, that I thought of when you were going through that. And it's one of those things that somebody mentioned to me in a OneNote course one time that it seems so obvious in retrospect. I don't know why I didn't think of it, but someone told me that what they do is when they go into a meeting to take notes in OneNote, they'll open a blank page, just like you have there. But then as the meeting starts, they'll go to that audio recording and they'll do an audio recording of the entire meeting if they have their iPad or whatever device they have there. So then they have whatever notes they've written, plus they have an audio recording of the entire meetings. If they missed anything, they can go back and listen to it again. I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, so again, that's the big advantage here. It can swallow just about any sort of material. Now, the other good thing is there is a free add-on from Microsoft that will transcribe the spoken text as it happens directly into OneNote as well. So again, you can turn that on, you can record, but as it's recording, it will actually start writing it on the screen for you as well. So that is a free add-on from Microsoft that you can add. Now, remember that will take resources on your machine, and audio and those sort of things are a bit more of a load on that. But if you need it, absolutely, you can certainly do that as well.
We got a comment from Hermione that the link is not there, and you are entirely correct. And I apologize if I spoke your name wrong. I swear I put it there, but I am not.
It's there. It's a little hidden. I just was looking for it as well. It's right after the registration link. There's something that says download Robert's daybook template. I'll copy the address into here though as well.
Oh, that'd be great.
So if you can't find it there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong blog post. I see what I did now. I'm not entirely crazy. I'm a little crazy, but not entirely.
It is a little hidden though, so I can see how someone wouldn't have found it.
We expect everybody to read every single word of our blog post to find all of our information.
The tip is to use the Immersive Reader on the browser and it will find it.
And Ben, to answer your question, yes, this is being recorded. It should be posted to our YouTube channel tomorrow. And Jackie's posted that download link into the chat. So great questions and great answers. I think I've exhausted all the questions that are here. Does anybody have any other questions for Robert while we're here together? Give a minute for any other questions to be typed into the chat, or if you want, you can raise your hand with the raise hand button as well.
So the other thing we could do, just quickly while waiting for some questions, you can do the standard formatting, bold, underline, format painter, all the stuff you're familiar with in Word. You can email a page too if you want to send somebody an email with this in. You can also integrate this with Outlook. So again, if you've got a meeting in your calendar, you can basically pull in the attendees, the agenda, the items. That can automatically come from your Outlook as well. So this integration, again, is really, really powerful. So again, we can send from Outlook to OneNote. We can also get OneNote to pull information from our Outlook, and we can do that with a lot of applications thanks to the integration with the Microsoft environment.
Very cool. Well, Jackie, do we have any other questions?
No, that's it. I am going to post the link to that blog post as well in case people don't have the other registration links for upcoming Tuesdays. But yeah, I don't have any other questions.
Well, and on that cue, let me take back sharing from you, Robert, and I'll do a link for next week. So that's today. Oops. So yeah, appreciate everybody being with us today. I hope you enjoyed the session. I know I did. And don't forget to join us next week. We've got Dr. Rebecca Heiss, a TEDx speaker and one of our favorite teachers. She does the Science of Business Productivity course for Bigger Brains. She's involved in our Awkward at the Office sexual harassment course. She's also involved in a blind spots course and a couple of others. She's in our new PowerPoint course. She's actually in a lot of courses. She's going to be talking about stress reduction techniques, which is very important in times like this. So I hope you guys can make it for that one as well. Be sure to check out our blog for the other upcoming sessions and webinars. And Robert, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Thanks so much for being part of our free training efforts for the work from home people. Appreciate everything you do. And I hope everybody, we have a link to Robert's blog as well. It's blog.ciaops.com, where you can find out more about him, more about his business, and the books and classes that he teaches there. Anything else we need to cover, guys? Jackie, Robert?
Nope.
No, I'm all good. Again, thanks for the opportunity. I hope everybody gets some benefit out of it. And again, the takeaway above everything else is search, 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 search. Use it every day on the web. Use it in OneNote, and I'll guarantee you that once you start building up your OneNote, you'll find out, again, what a game changer it is, has been for me. So, again, hopefully you'll take this away and get some benefit from it.
Awesome. And on that note, we'll end there. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being here. Look forward to seeing you next week. Robert, thanks again. Appreciate everything. And we'll see you guys next week.